so my number 3 is, if you haven't guessed right now, Android Netrunner, the card game. And it's, well, the second LCG we played, I guess, because the first one would have been Warhammer Invasion, I suppose. But we don't really count that as like a...
I think Lord of the Rings came before Netrunner.
Did we play that before we played Netrunner?
Pretty sure, yeah.
But anyway, yeah, so
yeah, I think that.
Tom bought this back from
Glasgow
and was like, hey, play this game about hackers and cool things. And I think none of us, we were kind of into it, but we weren't really, because it wasn't one of those things that we'd really done before, because we'd never really done LCGs as like a group kind of thing. But over time, everyone was sort of like dragged into it, and I think we've all played it for...
What a pleasant
and
verb.
picked up a lot of different cards and sort of, well, okay, absorbed in the world. There we go.
Oh, that's nice then.
Jacked in. Cyberpunk terms. But yeah, so it's one of those games that I think we've all really, really enjoyed at some point anyway. But we'll get to that, I guess. But the main focus behind, and the whole game behind Netrunner, is that you'll build decks, so it's like any kind of LCG out there or any CCG out there that you've played, where you will take cards and you'll build them into a deck that you think will work. It might have a specific focus, or it might be trying to pull off a particular trick or things like that.
Sorry.
There are factions for the runners and there are factions for the corporations. It's got a degree of asymmetry in there as well.
Very asymmetrical.
Because when you're playing the games, you'll play 2. One person will play as the corporation, who are trying to protect their servers. They're laying out in front of you with ice, and they're trying to advance their agendas behind the scenes, or in the light of day, as in some cases with the later expansions. And they'll be trying to score a number of points. I think 7 points, isn't it? 7 points.
Yes.
It's good. It's because I continually get all numbers mixed up between every LCG.
I get all numbers mixed up.
And then...
Beasts of War is such a success.
And then the runner, on the other hand, is laying out their programs, building their grip. Is it grip?
Yeah. Grip is your hand.
Oh, yeah.
Rig is
building
what's on
their
the table.
rig, which is sort of their computer that they're like putting programs in and things like that. And you'll be running different pieces of ice. You'll be trying to break them with your programs. You'll be trying to run these ice with icebreakers.
No, you're trying to run servers.
Running servers, breaking ice with icebreakers.
It's a simple game.
Playing credits, getting to the other end and hopefully stealing these agendas from the corporation, and you're trying to get to 7 points before they do.
Or the corporation can kill you.
Yes. The other way that the game can end is if the corporation kills you by a variety of different means.
Put a bear in the hacker's car. Because you can't fight bears forever. Just ask anyone who's ever been killed by a bear.
But yes, so the corporation can thematically go after you with their guns and bombs.
With their guns and their bombs.
And blow you up in your house, and they'll find out where you live by tagging you.
They can send deadly programs through your net, Jack,
so
man.
They can do brain damage, so they can work their way through your computer and kill you in there.
I thought you said it wasn't real. Your mind makes it real.
And then the other way is net damage as well.
So that shows.
Well, because brain damage can kill you.
Well, yeah, but it's all done the same way, isn't it?
But yeah.
Okay. There's also
the difference
or the runner can win
if the corp draws out.
Yes.
Yes, so there is an inbuilt time mechanic, which is good.
Yeah.
Because more games need them.
And the thing that I really liked about Netrunner, after playing it a certain amount of times and started getting stuck into the game a lot, was the fact that all of the factions play incredibly differently. So you've got the asymmetrical game going on there, where the runners are playing a very different game to the corporations. But then within that, you've got the shapers who prefer to their sort of mantra is all more about creativity and testing the limits.
Yeah. Let's run because why are you climbing Everest? Because it's there. Yeah. Like they want to break the puzzle.
So they're built huge rigs and
slower.
Yeah, and you've got the criminals who are in it for the money. They run fast and dirty. Well, to a degree,
quick grabs.
Get in there, get money, get things. They have a lot of tricks built into their deck as well.
They exploit the corp.
Yeah. And then you've got the anarchs who are all about destroying things and ruining the corporation.
Men just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, Alfred. And so
I'm going to throw in as many movie references as we can into this Netrunner.
And so
I'll do, Pig.
like And so the Anarchs are there to sort of destroy ice, bring it down, send viruses flooding into
Trash the
corporation
corpse
servers
cards.
and things like that,
Yeah.
and then run their dump when they don't know what they're looking for.
Run
their
their
trash.
dump.
Run the trash when
This
they don't
isn't
know.
Stig.
Archives, sorry.
This
And then
isn't
you've got,
Stig.
on the corporation side, you've got the different corporations there. So you've got the Wayland, well, I was going to say Wayland-Yutani.
Well, they are Wayland
But-
Yutani.
So you've got Wayland, who are very much about sort of big corporate
Generic
business.
mega cool.
And they're like, we will hunt you down, shoot you in the head, blow up your car.
Hunt you down.
And then you've got MBN, who are all more about sort of the media and the digital side of things.
They're
And they're all about,
super
Yeah.
fast.
They're a news corporation,
yeah,
aren't
they
Yeah.
learn where you live, they learn all about what you like, and then they'll capitalise on that to make all of their agendas come through, seemingly legally and stuff like that.
Although what that actually means in the game, stripping away that fluff, is they'll tag you, so they know, so they can strip away your assets.
Yeah, they'll take away
And
all your
they'll take an
resources and
advantage
things
the
like
more
that.
they know about you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to a degree later on, they like to kill you as well. But and then you've
But they
also
won't. Only by using whaling cards, so let's not.
and then you have HB. Well, there's
Has
two more.
by
So you've got HB, who are all sort of about sort of living androids and AI that's sort of taking
They're
control.
more efficient.
Yeah, so their ice is
Oh,
all
it's
effectively
big.
like living ice in a way, but they sort of theme that in the fact that you can sort of like beat it through
Just
time
time.
and knowledge.
Yeah,
and
you can
knowledge.
just spend time
Yeah.
where. Yeah.
And then there's Jinteki, who are sort of more of a medical corporation,
Huh,
and
that's
all
very
their
kind of you.
basis is all medical and cloning basically, which is the opposite obviously to HB with their androids and things. But the thing with Jinteki is that they're all about cutting you down with surprises and traps and using snares, which is a huge card that comes from the base game. That like you run in there, you've advanced something a couple of times, you don't really know what it is, you go in there and suddenly the trap kills
Yeah,
you.
Jinteki are the faction that want you to run.
Yeah. And that's another aspect of the game that I really enjoy, because with Netrunner, it's not just one of those typical card games like Magic the Gathering where everything is just open information effectively, kind of thing.
Apart
Where,
from your hand, but yes.
well, no, but like that's the hand. Your hand in Magic the Gathering is really something that only really applies to blue
I
players.
mean, your
and black.
hand is hidden in every card game.
Yeah,
so we can
but-
count, but
But
you
most
have,
right,
yeah,
but
all your
most
creatures,
knowledge on
yeah.
the table is closed to the runner unless they run. All the ice is face down, all their agendas, everything is face down, and they're just ticking away merrily doing things. And so it's got this nice bluffing, almost
Yeah.
poker style element to things where if you run that place,
Maybe
and
it's
they're like, are you sure, kind of
Yeah.
thing, and you're
Maybe
like,
it's just a pop-up window.
Yeah, it could be a pop-up window. It could be some
Maybe
weird
it's
advertising
Giannis
campaign or something.
1.0 who's going to rip your brain out your skull and stomp it.
Yeah, and so obviously you've got this fantastic element there, which is all about it's more of it being a
Psychological game.
it's a psychological game. It's also incredibly mechanically smooth, and it works very nicely to a certain degree. And it's also one of the only games out there where I've actually felt like I'm in the role of the game, if you know what I mean. Like there are a lot of games
thought he was a skyscraper.
No, but there are a lot of games out there where you'll play and you can you're slightly divorced from the fact that you're playing.
I know what you mean.
In their world, that kind of thing, right? Like for example, in Blood Rage, it's cool. There's lots of cool Vikings killing people, but I don't feel like a Viking chieftain sending my men to die.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
In Netrunner, I feel like a hacker trying to get into servers, and because you're actually physically doing it in some ways, you're sending your program is in there, revealing things. You then pay for it, then you get to the next one and stuff. It all feels very dynamic. And then as the corporation, you feel like that shadowy fat cat sitting back, sort of laughing.
There'll
as
be
you're
times where you're
"You're
like, yeah, I want you to come.
Yeah,
And then there'll be
come on,
times
bring
where
it
it's
on,
just
yeah.
like, oh my god, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like sometimes you're playing the fat cat sitting in the office, and then other times you feel like the guy who's about to be fired in the IT department who suddenly put weird ice on top of everything and things like that. But yeah, it's a game that has definitely taken over in my list in terms of card games to be on this list. Like, I mean, we talked a while ago about Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And I love Game of Thrones. I think it's awesome. But I don't feel in the same sense that I'm playing as one of those houses when I play that game.
Yeah, I know.
And in Lord of the Rings, it's definitely got more of the sort of I'm playing as these characters and I'm going on a quest, and I love that element of things. But I just think Netrunner has something over any LCG or CCG that I've played before, where it just feels right when you're playing it, and I enjoy the experience of sitting down to play Netrunner with someone.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there was definitely a time when Netrunner filled the position of Game of Thrones in my top 10.
It was your LCG.
Yeah, it was my LCG, and there's very few bad things I can think to say about it. Really, I mean,
the game anyway.
Yeah. I mean, the main reason I don't play it now is because it's outgrown me. It's too many expansions have come out. I haven't kept up with it, and I feel like trying to get in now. I just can't.
You see, that's interesting because I continue to play Netrunner, even though I'm maybe 3 cycles behind now.
Yeah.
But even to this point, I still don't find that like I'm missing out on anything when I play a game of Netrunner against someone who has all the extra cards. Like I'll sit down and play Netrunner and still very much enjoy it, to a certain degree. It depends on the type of player and things like that. But most of the people that I play in Netrunner now, I'm playing people who are nice people to play against, and they're not overly competitive. I mean, I have played in a couple of quite a few tournaments for Netrunner.
But there's very like, for instance, Jack going and playing at the UK Game Expo National.
Like I've played store championships and regional.
Yeah, which is
But that's still against people that are really
people that really want to win. Well, it doesn't. See, for you, the game outgrew you, but for me, the meta of this game has poisoned this game utterly for me. If we'd done this list a few years ago, Netrunner would have been the top game on my list. I've played it 348 times, and none of that's online. That's all face to face. And
I don't think any of us have played it online, have we?
Jack plays it online.
Jack plays it online, yeah.
But there was a period, like, these aren't the core box, obviously, that would be weird. We don't have a core box because my core box fell apart because I moved it around.
Upstairs, as a credit to Netrunner, there is a huge box full of cards.
Yeah, well, I've got a magic box with Netrunner cards plastered over the front. Yeah. These are all the deluxe expansions that go with the mini expansions, and they're not in. They are in chronological order. Oh, that makes me so happy. And about here in Netrunner time, so that's like 2 deluxe expansions through and 2 cycles through, is probably the peak, in my opinion, of Netrunner, because now we're way past Data and Destiny now, although there isn't another deluxe.
No, there's 2 cycles though. So.
Now the problem with Netrunner is the joke is it's called Not Runner, because so many of the wonderful things that you were talking about, and it's bringing back memories of amazing games we've played, and like decks you've built and stories you've told, and I taught it to all you guys, and I've taught it to several other people, and I was one of the people who brought this to our local store, really. Yeah. And then we all built up a meta around it, sort of countering the Magic the Gathering domination, really. And then people would dip their toes into it and, really start to enjoy it. And we've made friends with people because they played Netrunner. There was a really great community around it. And then the game became poisoned as the card pool got bigger. And, for instance, like all these cards here on the table are cards that are in these boxes because really they are not quote unquote strong enough to play in the current.
The problem was that it wasn't the fact that the card pool was large. The problem was that specific cards within the game could be used in a way that just meant
exploited.
You weren't playing Netrunner.
Yes, exactly.
Like, my idea of Netrunner, and the reason that it's number 3 on my list of all the games I've ever played, is because of that thing that I was explaining earlier, where I am a hacker running servers, beating ice, taking bruises, frying systems, losing things, but then getting that last-ditch attempt, running into an archives or into an R&D and pulling out that important agenda and be like, fuck yeah, I done it, woo! Or like as a corporation, killing that guy as he runs into the trap that you've perfectly laid. But now when you watch a lot of the big tournament games, for example, the last one at Worlds, at Gen Con?
Last Gen
Con. Yeah.
Gen Con
2016 anyway. They played the final game, they played for 18 minutes. Nobody ran. Nobody exchanged any cards, and at the end they just shook on it.
What we described earlier is not what happened there. Like, for instance, anyone who for some reason is listening to this and not played the game, I can't think who would, but if you look on Team Covenant and you go on their YouTube channel, and if you look back at like the first Netrunner Championship. I don't want to spoil the ending of the match, so if you are going to do this, I cannot imagine that anyone is, but if you are, right, I don't want to spoil the ending, so thank you for watching, and skip like 30 seconds.
Wait till Alex's video.
Yeah, Ben will wave when we finish talking about it. So at the end of that game, this game, it's like an hour and a quarter long, this match, and
it should be pointed out that normal games last about 60 minutes, but
keep those hands down.
Last about 60 minutes, but a finals game is there is no time limit.
Yeah.
So
It was original Netrunner, and one of the best things about Netrunner when it's its best is that the game has an amazing tempo, and it was push and pull, and it was so tight, and the corporation puts down this card, it advances it, it must be the winning agenda, the runner, can they scrape together enough cash, they get through, and it's a June bug, and it kills the runner, and it was everything that you want from Netrunner, so you can wait now.
And
no one's going to care.
The thing was, it was one of those games, and I still think to a degree it is with the people that I play against, it's one of those games where I would happily, once I finished my games of Netrunner, go and watch other people playing their games and be like, oh, I don't know what is he going to run?
Yeah.
And so you're looking at your board and you're like, what would I do in this situation?
Yeah.
And I get that to a degree with Game of Thrones, but I think it's a lot more chess-like in Game of Thrones, where it's like there are certain moves you were just going to do. Kind of
and when Netrunner started as well, one of the purest things about the game was that there was none of this magic. What's it called? Events in Magic, is it?
Yeah.
Where you're like, I play this and cancel. Instance. I play this and cancel that. I play that and cancel that. Like, my turn was my turn, and as the runner, and the only interaction the Corp was going to have on my turn was if I ran his servers, he could choose to res the ice and reveal what it was, and I would interact with it.
And interesting though, I think that played very much into the theme, because at that point, that's like you hitting a mega corporation. You will never see the person on the other side of the screen. All your interactions will ever be with that person are that flipping of the ice, that revealing of the thing at the end you see in like a data file kind of thing.
But now it's just become this ridiculous, like, there's so much timing structures and nonsense, and Netrunner used to be a difficult game to teach, but it was teachable. Now, like Gene Jack said, who is the biggest Netrunner proponent amongst us, even he said you can't even really teach it anymore.
No.
Right? How do you even begin to teach it?
A guy asked me, what should I do to get into Netrunner? And at this point, I was trying to think to myself, well, if I want you to have a good time, what would I do? And so I was thinking about it, and I was talking with him, and talking about another guy about it online as well. And effectively, we came to the decision that nowadays you buy the core box, just buy one of these that feature, or the two of these that feature the corporation and the runner that you like, and then just pick and choose data packs that you think are cool because you've seen the cards online.
What you really need is you need
don't start from the beginning.
You need a group of friends who are into the game, because
you'll have loads of cards for you to borrow and things like that.
If you buy a core set and you buy one of these boxes and you go to some poor store championship, I mean, just like the game that you've read, the game that you've understood from reading these cards and maybe even playing a couple of practice games, is not the game that you will probably end up sitting down and playing.
Yeah.
Like we have distinct...
if there was going to be a massive caveat about this game, and it may be one of those things that, next year I completely change my thinking on Netrunner because something will happen, but I would think that we're not far away from seeing a new edition of the game, and we will see a new card. We'll see a new core box. We'll see a new set of rules implemented. That are probably going to
be so good.
Yeah, it'll probably follow the same premise of Netrunner that we played in first edition, because that's exactly what
Game of Thrones.
Well, yeah, because FFG will always try and evolve on a format that they know will work. So with Game of Thrones, it was one of those games where first edition was alright, but it just got too big and too bloated and they couldn't control it. Yeah. So they kept a lot of the mechanics that they liked and just made it a little bit more streamlined and easy to play.
Yeah, they made the game about what it was supposed to be, and Game of Thrones is about challenges. Yeah. Netrunner has moved too far away from running.
Yeah.
And I genuinely, I think one of the reasons that that FFG have put out a lot more games that are based in the universe is because they're getting to the point where they realise now that Netrunner's not as great as it used to be. but they want to keep the
brand
going.
Yeah.
So they should, because
so
it's
that you'll
a
pick up
brand.
Infiltration, which is an older game over there. You pick up New Angeles. You pick up Mainframe. And New Angeles may, potentially sneak in if it's pretty good. But they're going to keep the brand alive so that in a year, maybe a year and a half, they'll reboot the game completely, and they'll still run the occasional tournaments here and there. But I think it'll be a truer Netrunner.
With this idea of rebooting games, right? Is it a design issue then? That because obviously all these things would have been play tested months before they came to release.
Yeah, and that's true.
So why do games like this, and it happened with Game of Thrones in first edition, and I'm hoping it doesn't happen again in second edition. Why do games like this end up having to be rebooted?
I think
if there's all these games are designed to be.
I generally think the reason behind it is that the original identity, say for example, the original identity of what an anarch was all about this trashing thing and destroying things, right? And so you got to a certain point with a faction where you had to try something different, but potentially, different enough, but similar enough that people can just continue to use it as that identifying feature.
Yeah.
Because they'll just leave anarchs and they'll play a different faction if it doesn't work like that. So it gets to the point where factions just become so damn good at something, and you're stuck in this weird design path that you can't get out of, that you're screwed over for that. So like for example, and I think that's why FFG have been reluctant to ban cards, because they take away from the identity of a faction, but they've limited them instead.
I think it's more because they don't want it to be seen as a concession of failure in design.
Yeah.
I think I have no idea on how games are designed beyond like the anecdotal stuff
Honestly,
I hear.
generally, the design. I mean, I can only come at this from a miniatures gaming point of view, but miniatures games are redesigned when the designer feels that it's time for it to happen. Because miniature game designers, and to a degree, I think a lot of card game designers, because Alessio Cavatore, who does a lot of miniatures games, does a lot of board games and card games as well. His philosophy is, I make the games that I want to make, and if at a certain point I suddenly realise that the game's not fun for me, I was the one that designed it, then I want to remake it. And I think that philosophy is something that needs to be that people want to re-energise.
I think it's because when a new pack is designed, right, they don't work on them as 20 card packs, but when a cycle is being looked at, they will look at every card, right? So they're trying to use every card, right? And that's how they view it. But a player, a Dan Arginio, what was the English guy's name?
Dave Hoyland.
Dave Hoyland. Yeah, the top level players, the people who define metas, they don't look at a pack and go, ooh, I can't wait to use that card. Ooh, I can't wait to use that card. They go, right, where's the gold?
Yeah.
Right, that works with that. I can make that work, and they don't care about the rest, because it's not about like, oh, how can I make all these cards work? That's what the designers are trying to do. But the innumerable Netrunner cards that are just so difficult to make work, that we've invented tournaments in our local store where you have to try something different. And the reason I'm talking about, like, as the game gets bigger, that becomes a problem, because when the original game came out, all the decks looked the same, right? Yeah. But they all looked the same using the same cards and the same ideas, because they were built around the same idea. As the game has gone out and it's branched outwards, like, the longer those branches have gone, the heavier they've got, and all that fruit, the dead, rotten fruit, the wasted cards, are just falling off all the time, and you've just got these very fine points that survive. And there's so many cards now that you just would never ever see.
I think to a degree, a lot of it was that. Yeah, I mean, I was talking about identity, and I may even sort of go over my own point here, but an anarch's agenda, a criminal's agenda, or whatever, a shaper's agenda went down a certain path, and the one that I described at the start of this video was the sort of
the origin,
the original character.
Yeah.
But it's like with any character in anything, you want to try and give them a different side, but those sides never.
That wasn't the original intention.
Never fully bloomed. Like one of the big things with criminals, which is probably my favourite faction, is they were all about money and tricks and things like that. And then it got to the point. And then it got to the point where nobody plays any tricks. I'm going to play all the things that will capitalise off something that you do to do with trashing or something like that, or things I do. And so the runner is then discouraged from doing any running and instead concentrates more on what their board state, for want of a better word, looks like, than what the enemies, than what the corporation.
Okay, right. This has gone a very long time because it's a game that deserves a lot of discussion. But when would you play this game? Succinctly.
I think the word.
No.
You can be honest.
No. I'll be honest. I do enjoy playing it, and when I play it, I always enjoy it. The main reason I don't play it is because I feel I've lost complete sight, touch of it and sight of it, and there's far too much going on, and it has become that game that is just too competitive. Which
is an interesting thing for you to say.
When you play Game of Thrones.
Right, yeah.
Well, no, and Alec is a naturally competitive person.
Because there is the one type of deck that people will play and people won't look outside to add in any little tricks here and there.
So you wouldn't play.
I won't play apart from when we do the
very specific events.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would play at a very specific event, mainly because of the people and the memory of the game. But I can't see myself ever playing Netrunner again until a serious change occurs. Because it sickens me, and that's a strong word, but it sickens me what this game has become. Because this used to be my favourite game of all time.
I'll happily play it between us, like here at home, but
there's like this unwritten understanding that we want to play Netrunner, not
in our
way.
Yeah.
Whereas
and
from my point of view, if anyone ever said to me, "Do you want to play Netrunner?" I'd say yes. If I just sure, I'll play Netrunner right now, kind of thing. Yeah. More so maybe than Game of Thrones, and more so maybe than Lord of the Rings. Although Lord of the Rings is very different. But I have no I don't like the people that play in this new way where it's all about not running and all this bullshit. Right? I don't like playing those people, but I will still happily play them because I just like.
Yeah.
Sounds weird, but I like seeing the cards on the table, looking at little tiny cool patterns coming together, and that one time when you're playing someone who's really ultra competitive and your Smith & Wesson, which this is something that did happen if you know Netrunner, my Smith & Wesson killed Jackson, so I could run the server and I could get the agenda from it, and I was like, hell yes, I've done it, it's awesome. So and that's one of the things that continually will put Netrunner on my top 10, those clutch moments where all the things you potentially learned go out the window and you just do some Hail Mary thing and it works.
And that's when Netrunner was great.
Yeah.
But those moments are so much so much rarer. Yeah. They were always rare, but they were there. Whereas now you could play these people with those decks. You don't even get those moments.
To a degree as well, I still play Netrunner, and even though I'm 3 cycles behind now, maybe more than that actually. Maybe 4 seconds behind, I will still play games, and for example Jack will play an entirely new deck that I've never seen, and I will be stunned at the end of it how that worked, and I'll be like, that's an amazing engine, I can't believe you did that, and he's like, yeah, that was really cool, isn't it? And so you have that nice discussion after the game that I really enjoy, and yeah, Netrunner for me, when I first played Netrunner, I never thought I'd enjoy it as much as I do. Because I thought, this feels like one of those weird games where I've got to be really competitive.
But you would likewise agree that like
if you want to play Netrunner, don't play in any kind of competitive tournament because it's just filtered down too badly. So.